Well, it's been a minute till we got this all together, but this is the JK Pottycast, as if the world needed another podcast. And so
What's up,
I
Jim?
wanted to give a brief history of what this is and why we're doing it. Maybe a couple months ago, I was talking with Yavo. Me and Yavo know each other for a few years now. We worked together in Germany, and we've since then, since he's left and I've left Germany, we've both kind of stayed in touch and just our relationship developed and grew into a pretty, oh, I consider a pretty solid friendship. And but as we were talking one day, I said, you know what, we should just do like a podcast where we just talk shit about anything, but we talk shit from the bathroom, from our bathrooms. And I remember
Oh,
clearly,
that's when you
Yavo,
talk to people on the phone, is when you're taking a dump.
pretty much. But
Yeah.
Yavo, you had told me something. You said, I will not do that podcast. You would have to buy me a porta potty before I would do that
World don't need
podcast.
any more podcasts, so if you were going to get me to do it, and we're going to do it in the shitter, I said, buy me a damn porta potty. And I regret saying that immediately because then it involved a porta potty magically showing up to my house. And then I had to clean a shitty porta john. Yeah.
So I bought him a used porta potty from a construction company that basically puts out porta
Keyword
johns
was
everywhere.
used.
It was a used porta potty, but I paid, had it delivered to his house. We'll eventually put that video up of the delivery. But long story short, we decided to do a podcast where we just talk shit about any topics. We're just going to basically be going through the news, figure out what we want to talk about, give her, and of course, disclaimer: all these opinions and statements of our own. We know we're very well aware of cancel culture, but who cares?
Oh, yeah,
Again,
I'm going to
this
be fired and canceled by the end of this for sure. Absolutely. Get
so
all the skill hair people angry right
going
now.
forgoing cancer culture and all that stuff, we basically our opinions are of our own. I don't even take myself that seriously half the time, so I know y'all was probably on the same page. So if something
I'm
offends you, if
sitting
you're
in a shitter in
watching,
my backyard. Of course, I take myself. I couldn't even say with a straight face. Yeah, nah,
but
screw that, man.
just
I'm
as a
drinking whiskey. What's up?
warning, anyone watching this or listening to this podcast, if we're saying something you don't like, guess what? There's a million other channels to tune your internet to, tune your phone to. So just tune out. It's that easy, when
Join
it
the
comes to
Marine Corps
cancel
and get some
culture.
thicker skin. That's what I tell
Or get some thicker skin. So no topics too taboo or too soon. None of those things exist with me and Yavo. So it's just us really having a conversation, and then you, the internet, etc., get to listen in on it. So that's the genesis of the podcast and kind of what we seek to do, and just have some fun with it. The moment it stops being fun, Yavo and I both have agreed that if it stops being fun, we just stop doing it. So with that being
Hey, what I
said,
want to do though is I want to get a Sharpie, and for every angry Karen that I get to actually write like a full paragraph, I want to put like a check mark or something. I got to figure that out later, but I think that'd be funny.
okay. So without further ado, let me just let Yavo give a quick introduction of himself. And Yavo, I'll give you your time. I'm dominating the intro, so go ahead, Yavo.
All right, good man. Yeah, my name's Yavo. I work IT. I was in the Marine Corps for about 8 years. Now I ain't. And now I just work IT. I fly airplanes. I build them in my backyard too. So my wife says I'm building a fancy coffin, but so far I haven't killed myself with it yet. So I build and fly airplanes, and I work IT. I made a little company called Yavos.tech to help people learn to get the job that I have now, so that they can work in their backyard in a tough shed by the pool, and have enough money to afford the gas for an airplane. Not the whole airplane, the gas. Gas is expensive enough as it is.
Well, that's good. And by the way, happy birthday. It's your birthday. So how many rotations around the sun have you made it?
30 and some change, I think. My knees tell me more, but my enthusiasm tells me less. And but it was good. We did my birthday Sunday, and after church, we all hang out by the pool, and a bunch of people got thrown in the pool. Everyone got drunk, and I got punched in the face by a drunk chick at some point, which was fun. So we got all the things taken care of as far as what a birthday
Wait,
needs.
wait. You glossed over something there. You got punched in the face. I need to know the story
Yeah,
of this.
it's not a party unless somebody gets punched in the face or ends up on the floor,
But
right?
wait.
That's
It
how
was
that
your
works.
birthday party and someone punched you in the face. So let's hear the
Yeah.
story.
So she walked up to me and tried to do the whole,
Whoa, stop.
boop, I got your nose.
She,
What?
wait, you just said you started the story off with she. Is this your wife
Yeah,
or is this somebody else at the party?
no, a friend of ours.
So a
So
female friend of yours punched you in the face.
yeah,
Continue.
yeah. So we're all doing the, drinking, hanging out at the pool party thing. And after we did the cake and ice cream stuff, she walks up and she puts the finger just below my chin and goes, "Hey, you got something on your shirt?" And yeah, no, I I wasn't about to get got. So I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And so I did it back to her. I went, "Nope, boop," and I bucked her nose. I was like, I look down, and I got her with the
You did like a
got your
nose
nose.
flick.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And as soon as she realized that she got, she she chose violence immediately, chased me around the house. And when she finally caught up to me, she tried to do like the bop on your nose, but she was drunk. So she ended up punching me in the right in the nose there. And as soon as she did it, she was like, "Oh shit!" And first thing I thought was, oh shit, she knocked my glasses off because, my sunglasses magnetic because they're super cool, right? And I'm over 30, so for me this is cool. So my glasses got knocked to the ground, and you hear in the background, you hear, "Oh shit, Farva over here." Pulled a Farva, like in movie Super Troopers, where Farva throws a fire extinguisher and like the whole party stops because like we're all having fun and you just threw a fire extinguisher. So she punched me in the nose and was like, "Oh crap!" And
Wait, so
yeah,
she
that's
was
like the end of
talking.
the story. As like karma caught up with her about 30 minutes later because she found a way to trip and fall into the pool, which that was funny for everybody. But yeah, I got punched in the face on my birthday, so it was a good birthday party.
So she ran after you and she was going to boop you. So like poke your nose like this.
Well, to be fair, it was her birthday too, so
Okay, but
it was both of our birthday party. Yeah, she meant to do like one of those, and she ended up punching me in the face.
but so she must have missed you with the finger and just.
Yeah. After like her fourth or fifth apology, I was like, "Bro, you're making it weird. Quit it."
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
and then Karma caught up to her like 30 minutes later, and she got tossed in the pool by one of her other friends. I was like, "Yeah, it's a good day."
Well, that seems like a pretty hell of a birthday party. So, but happy birthday.
Yeah, I
Just
even got
wanted
to
to get
shave a
that
dude's
out
head
there.
also on my birthday. So I got punched in the face. I got to shave a dude's head. A bunch of people got thrown in the pool. It was a good day.
That sounds like a pretty wild party. You shaved the dude's head. So, well, look, man, let's get right into some news because at the end of the day, this is one of the things that I like for us to just go through some news, whatever's top in the news. So I'm literally opening up my phone. I'm gonna just jump up to Google News and let's just see what topics are out there and that we can chat about.
Cool.
So
I wrote a
I
bunch of
just
new stuff on a whiteboard because my internet ain't as good as your internet.
uh,
So I'll stick that here. I heard down in actually I sent you the link a minute ago. There was a puppy that turned green. Believe that?
well, puppy, where's
Down
this
in
at?
Florida. Yeah, this is down here in Florida. There was a local puppy that was born bright ass green.
So let's just caveat something. Yavo lives in Florida. Of course, anyone knows the most unusual, crazy, fanatical stories are going to come out of Florida. So a puppy was born green. Was there any
Yeah,
science behind this, or is this just a one in a billion
the science
occurrence?
behind it was that the mom's internal bile soaked into the fur of the puppy as it was developing. So when it came out, it was dyed green. And as the puppy ages, it will no longer be green. But for the first like year of its life, I think I was reading they were like, "Yeah, man, this dog's gonna be like, like Clifford the big red dog, but it's gonna be green. Like, it's like the Lucky Charms." So I think they named the puppy Lucky, which is I'm
Lucky.
like, that's the lucky. If that dog don't get a treat every day, if that dog's tail ever stops wagging, someone did something wrong because that dog should be, lucky forever.
I wonder if this dog already has its social media, if it already has some contract signed for advertising, because it would probably be well compensated for being great.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I would buy some Lucky Charms if they were sold from a green puppy. Yeah, I would.
So one of the news stories, I usually like to lead with like some of the top news stories, and I don't want to talk about the same stuff that you see already in all the news outlets and social media. But there was one story that caught my eye this morning, and I thought this is something me and Yava's got to talk about. So Mexico is having some elections, and it's turning out to be the most violent election ever. They've had 30, that's 30, 30 candidates murdered and 77 threatened and 11 kidnapped. Now, hats off to Mexico. That
I've
is
never
one
heard
hell
this
of a
story
way to
before,
have
but all
some
right, you got
elections.
my attention, especially with the kidnapping. It's like, if we're already shooting that many people, why are we bothering with the kidnapping? But okay, I'll listen.
It's something that their political system is driven by. Violence is the default option, and I have two perspectives on this. One, I'm like, you know what? I would like to sometimes have our politicians, when they're debating each other, have like some kind of physical contest of some kind. Maybe it's just an arm wrestle. Maybe it's some MMA. I think
Oh,
what we're
I
missing.
actually have an idea for that. I said, in order to hold any political office for anything, you should have to fly and land your own Cessna at least once. Because it's easy to take off, but anybody with a couple hours of training can land a Cessna with like a couple hours of training. If you had a year's notice before your next election cycle, you can get down to your local airstrip, get 40 hours of training, and then land the plane. And if you're not capable mentally or physically to land a plane when your butt is literally on the line, and you end up, as the lawn dart on the runway, that'd be a pretty quick way to figure out if people are capable to do any kind of office. And if you ain't brave enough to get in the plane and try to land it yourself, well, then you ain't brave enough to be a leader in the first place. So I think we should do that. If you want to be a politician for any level, you got to go down to your local airfield, go fly and land a Cessna real quick. Do it once per election cycle for whatever you're trying to do.
Maybe taking off and landing the plane might be very niche because not every person would have any idea of how to do that. But I have a suggestion that's not, it's a little different than yours, but my suggestion is we have sort of, instead of these debates and what they think about issues, because at the end of the day, a lot of the issues they debate about is like these 50-50 soapbox issues. Like if one side wants to be pro-life, pro-abortion, pro-marijuana, anti-prison reform, they all have these 50-50 subjects that all it does is divide the room. I'm thinking what we should do, instead of wasting all this time talking about what I call grandstanding soapbox issues, why don't we get down to it and talk about the things that matter? So but the talking and debate is one of a decathlon. We'll have 10 events that in the election year, there's 10 events that they show up throughout the year and compete against. And we get to see how they perform. One could be the debate. That way they can test, what they know about different topics. I kind of make it like a quiz show, really. But in the debate itself, the way we make it better, because a lot of times they spend too much time attacking each other in the debate. I say the last question of every debate should be, you have 2 minutes to say nothing but positive things for your opponent, and let them see how they squirm when they have to talk about positive things about them without being facetious, sarcastic, without being sarcastic, if they could do it. And that would
Honestly,
show.
I think being facetious and sarcastic while giving a compliment, using your tone to turn a compliment into an insult, that sounds hilarious in itself.
I don't disagree, but for the purposes of testing out their diplomacy is a big deal for a world leader, where you have to talk to leaders you don't like. That shows us as the American public how good they can deal with someone they don't like. So that's diplomacy. Now that's into one of the 10 events. We would have events like marksmanship. Can they load and fire a firearm?
No, that seems about right.
10 events. So I'm not going to waste a lot of our time on this podcast to talk about all 10 events, but what I'd like to do is anyone that's watching this podcast at this point, if you want to jump on our social medias, we're going to post a question. If politicians had to do a 10 events in an election year to compete against, what would those 10 events be and why? And if you want to put a long comment, we encourage people to check out our socials, JK Pottycast, and I will make sure they're in the description below. But jump on any of our socials, make the comments, and we're going to choose the best one to talk about in a future episode, and we will reward that person with a $20 Amazon gift card. So
that kind of sounds like, are you smarter than a fifth grader?
Possibly. But I just really found that interesting that Mexico has that much violence over election years. So I just thought, even though it's, violence is never a pleasant thing to talk about,
Yeah,
but it was eye-opening to say the least that many people has been, killed, kidnapped, and threatened. It's something else. So,
yeah,
um,
kind of wondering what they're paying for security contractors down there. Probably should pay them a little more.
but yeah, I thought that was a really interesting story. So, the next thing I had on the list here, let me see what we have.
Hey, 11 dudes kidnapped. Damn.
11 people kidnapped. So that's pretty amazing.
Like you think after number 8, they'd be like, "Hey, John, like people getting yoked up. Let's walk in groups of 3 or something. Let's get a couple of guys with some body armors and some vans and like watch you." And
So
he's like, "No, I'm gonna go to McDonald's. I'm gonna go down to the local freaking store or whatever. I'll be right back." And he never comes back. He gets yoked up at the cash register. Like, well, shucks,
so
we should have
out of
went with him to the
Florida.
store.
So here's another story that caught my eye, and it's pretty hilarious. So this is of course Florida.
Is
It's
it the
coming
Gator
from
one?
St. Petersburg, Florida. No, it's not the Gator. This is a man, 46 years old, arrested for road rage al dente. So I will just read the
So
opening
far, it doesn't
sentence
sound
here.
like anything was done wrong, but okay.
The victim in the drive-by attack, cops say, was hit in the arms, leg, and torso by a road raging Florida motorist. But the male escaped without injury because he was only struck by, quote, pasta with sauce, according to the police report. And it was
If something like that happens, that means you have to go and file the police report. I think if something happens to you that ridiculousness, you'd be too ashamed to go to the police and admit it.
he got struck by pasta with sauce. So
Yeah,
the
I mean, like somebody
reporter.
threw a can of ravioli, bro. It's like, yeah, what? No.
So my first question is, what kind of sauce was it? Because I
You
mean,
know,
this
they
this
say it's it's that commercial Prego. They go, hey, it's Prego. Everything's in the can. That's it. He gave him the whole can. Everything's in there.
but it
Everything's
was
in there. Mom's recipe, the works.
over glaring headlights. So I've been driving at night just like most people, and you get those. I don't know if it's just the newer vehicles with the LED lighting that's just like it's like light up your whole life when you're driving down the road and this car comes up behind you and the headlights are just ultra bright.
Or
And
if the truck is like really tall, so it like shines down like a smaller vehicle, yeah.
yeah, I just don't know if vehicle manufacturers can do something about this. Like, for example, you can your vehicles now have like a rear windshield screen that can pop up that is an option to help filter the light? That would be one
I'm
suggestion.
thinking like anybody who's ever watched the show Cops can probably tell you that ass whoopings just don't fall out the sky. I mean, the victim will always tell you that they did nothing to deserve nothing. They were just standing there, reading the Constitution and the Bible and thinking about bald eagles and the American flag, and then for no reason, an ass whooping just fell out the sky. That's like every single victim story, right? But it's like the dude that got the Prego or the ravioli chucked at him, you know, I'm not saying there was a good reason to get ravioli thrown at his ass, but there was a reason. And something tells me that dude was probably being an asshole and then got a little bit of karma thrown on him. Like
I
I
mean,
haven't read the story, but it kind of sounds like dude was being an asshole. He was fucking around. He found out.
well, the guy that threw the pasta with
Found out
sauce,
some secret recipe for ravioli.
but the guy that threw it, obviously it was either a takeout order or a takeaway order. There's no case where I'm just randomly driving down the road and I got a pot of spaghetti and sauce and I'm just going to whip up a plate real quick from the driver's seat. So my assumption, my
So you
assumption,
telling me this dude had for like if you go to the Olive Garden, you pull up the menu right now. That menu for that thing of pasta that's like $13. I don't know about you, but if I'm about to throw $13 worth of food of spaghetti at somebody, man, he's got to piss me off $13 worth of being an asshole.
well,
That's a lot of money to chuck at somebody.
you just brought up Olive Garden and they still have that endless breadsticks, right?
Oh
So,
yeah, and he might have been the 2 for 20 from Applebee's or whatever it is.
well, I mean, I like to think if he went to Olive Garden, filled up on breadsticks, is like, I'll just take my whole entree home because I want to
Yeah.
know how much pasta he chucked at this guy, and did he just chuck it from like a styrofoam to go box?
Well, he didn't
But
chuck enough of it to get the whole guy covered because he was probably trying to aim at the headlights a little bit.
but the headlines.
That's what he's
But
probably trying to do.
I think it's
He's
more
probably looking at the guy and be like,
fantastical.
man, screw this guy. I'm gonna chuck my pasta.
I think it's more fantastical to think about this is that, like I said earlier, there's a guy in Florida just driving around with like an adapter to a cigarette lighter adapter with a hot plate with just a pasta in the passenger seat, and he's just got to have
I
pasta anytime
I genuinely hope that that dude goes home and he vinyls on the back of his car a big old sticker that says Pasta Man. I I want to make that into a sticker, Pasta Man. That's a bumper sticker if I ever saw one right there. I like it.
So I thought that was pretty hilarious coming out of Florida. But
All right,
yeah,
I got one.
what you
I
got?
wrote it on my whiteboard here.
You got a
Let's see. I
whiteboard.
got freaking so April 26th, right? Freaking some dude set the world record for hugging the most trees down here in Florida, I think.
Is it a
Yeah.
Guinness World Record or just?
Yeah, man, the good dude hugged like over 1,000 trees in like a short amount of time. Like down, he just walked around, started hugging trees and taking selfies with them, and he got a Guinness World Record like this week. So don't let, no matter what's on the news, you absolutely cannot say there's not enough tree huggers because one dude just broke the Guinness World Record, and it's like more than 1,000 trees.
Let me look this up because I got to know what the record officially is.
Yeah, man. It's like people are like, oh, the news is always so negative. And I'm like, man, they put literally tree hugging was a story in the news this week.
Record. Let me see
Yeah,
what
I'm
it
pretty
is.
sure I even freaking sent you the link to that story.
So wait, this is out of Ghana, right?
Yeah, that guy.
No, he did
I
it. He
couldn't
did
say
it
that
in
dude's.
Alabama, according to this.
Yeah,
So
dude in Alabama. I couldn't. Ghana? Is that the guy's name? Or is that
no,
where
no,
he's
he's from
from? I
the
don't know what it is.
country of Ghana. He hugged a
Well, see, that
total
just
of
tells you what I know. But
he
yeah, so
hugged a
apparently this
total
dude went around Alabama hugging trees.
So he hugged a total of 1,123 trees. That's
Yeah,
19 trees a minute. So I need to see the details of what.
19. And just so I said it, when you think about it, like everyone makes the Alabama jokes about like, get off my property and stuff like that. Nobody stopped this dude from hugging all those trees. Like Alabama must have been pretty accepting to be like, what are you doing, man? You're hugging some tree. I mean, all right. And nobody stopped him. He went
So
around hugging trees in a forest like all day, I guess.
if someone wants to top that record, let me just give you the rules they have for him. He
There's
couldn't hug this.
rules.
He couldn't
They
hug
put
the
rules
same.
on hugging a tree.
For the world record attempt, there are rules. So these are the
All
rules.
right.
Rule one, you can't hug the same tree more than once. So you have to make sure you're in a big enough area with a 1,123 or 24 trees if you're trying to break the record. You also have to
Yeah.
make sure that no damage would be caused to any tree or the attempt would be disqualified. So those are the two rules. And just to
I wonder
put
what
the
they consider
perspective,
damage, like emotional damage. Like if because trees can hear you, right? So if you went to go hug a tree and then every single tree you hug, you whispered like some shit to it, you're like, hey, you're never gonna be that acorn that your big oak thought that you were gonna be. You'll never amount to more than an acorn. If you hugged all those trees and gave an insult to all of them, and then like 6 months later, like 50 of those trees died.
well, I hate to break the news to you, Alva. You wouldn't have the time to do that comment to any of the trees because he hugged that 1,123 trees in an hour. That equates to one hug every 3 seconds. So you have to be hugging pretty fast, like hug and go, hug and go,
I was
hug
just
and go.
running a train on them, yeah. All
Running
the
the
trees.
hug train.
Yeah, man. Dude's a
I,
hoe for trees.
I love it. Running a
Yeah.
hug train. Damn.
I mean, what else you call that, right?
No, you're
Like,
absolutely
is
right. That
that
is a
something like
hug
a
train.
gaggle of trees or something? What do you call a group of trees that sounds more fun than a forest? You could just call it a forest, but that's boring. Like, what's the
So
verb for hugging a bunch of trees? That's not a verb. Gotta make a specific verb for that.
Well, he did it for a good cause, right? So I applaud him. He's a forestry student, so it just makes the story even better. But kudos to the dude coming from Ghana and doing
What
something
did
to
the
make a
cause get? You
statement.
said did it for a good cause. What did the cause get? Does it say in the story?
Let me go back to it.
It's like people say, I did something for a good cause. I'm like, all right, well, if the cause was like curing cancer, did he make a bunch of money and donate that money to like curing cancer's littlekids.com or something?
No, I think it was raising awareness, but yeah, about nature and the environment, right? So the
All
record,
right. Well, I mean, hey, you got some use out of hugging trees, I guess.
yeah, if he just says it's a gesture to highlight the crucial role of trees in our ecosystem. So he did it to send a message. He won a world record. It's funny because Guinness World Records have been around for forever, as I know. When I grew up, I remember every year they'd have another Guinness Book of World Records book that would come out with all of the different achievements and records. And it's one of my little like check boxes I'd love to check in my lifetime is to figure out what kind of world record I can set and actually try to get a Guinness World Record. Now, for a lot of people that are not familiar, have not been to their website, it's not a cheap process. It costs money to get them to come out and certify your attempt. So whenever you see these videos on social media of someone doing like, one video I saw on social media was these guys cracking nuts with their foreheads, and they had like all the nuts lined up on the table. And
Yeah.
whenever they set these events up, it costs money to bring out the Guinness World Records certifiers to certify your attempt. But there's an application process, there's a vetting process they go through to one, to qualify your record attempt, and two, to make sure that it fits their criteria before you even go. And that costs money too. Like the application process costs a fee.
Everyone's got to get their pound of flesh, I guess.
Everyone's got to get pound flesh, but that is on my bucket list. But with that being said, if there was anything that you had in your life, Yavo, that was like a record for you, it doesn't have to be a world record, but what would you say if you was like looking at your life like a video game with like all your video game achievements, and you looked at your life, what would be like the top five achievements from a
No, I
record
got one.
perspective?
I got one. So, generally speaking, when you fly a plane around the world, because of the Earth's rotation, you go east, right? It's less gas, less distance, because the Earth's spinning underneath you. It makes sense, right?
Okay.
Same air currents are better. At my local airport down here in Spring Hills, they're doing at the Brooksville EAA chapter. They're flying a Learjet, not east, but they're flying it west. So they're going to circumnavigate the globe, and that is a Guinness World Record because that record hasn't even been attempted in over 100 years, and it sure as hell has not been attempted with a Learjet. So there's got like 6 guys, and they're going to live inside this Learjet, and they're going to try to get it done within like it's X amount of hours or whatever, but they're going to fly it east. And then once they get around the Earth, really, no matter how slow they do it, because of their planes much faster than 100 years ago, they're going to get the world record. So that's going to be set here pretty soon. You can watch it on. You can actually watch their trip on like the GPS and stuff like that as it's going around. But to that point, most airplanes don't fly west, they fly east. So I looked into doing that exact same trip, but with an experimental airplane that I built in my garage. And as it turns out, that's a pretty easy world record to beat because there ain't nobody doing it. So I figured that eventually, when I get one of these planes built out of my garage, I'm going to do a circumnavigate the globe in it one time, but instead of going east, I'm going to go west, and I can add it to the Guinness World Record.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Circumvent the globe in a plane.
Yeah. And if you see like a little baggie of screws or something, like just sitting at the bottom of the floorboard of the plane, I'll pick it up and be like, man, do these look extra to you? I'm not sure. That's why it's experimental, right? It's like IKEA furniture. When you put it together with extra parts, it just means you did a better job.
There's another story out of Florida, and I'm sorry, this is not Florida. I thought it was Florida, but it's from Georgia. There's so let's talk about emotional support animals. There's, emotional support dogs, cats, like the common household type pets, right?
Chinchilla, emotional support chinchilla. Those are awesome.
Chinchillas, some people got really ridiculous with their emotional support animals, right? This
Yeah,
one,
furry cats are adorable.
when I first read the headline, I swore it was going to be Florida, but I had to read further to realize it was Georgia. But adjacent Florida, Wally, the emotional support alligator, goes missing. Oh, I'm sorry, he was on a Georgia vacation. So he is from
Somebody lost their swamp puppy?
he's from Pennsylvania. So this emotional support alligator, it lives with a guy in Pennsylvania, and he went missing when they were on vacation in Georgia.
Well, it just sounds like somebody's missing their swamp puppy, but I mean, yeah, that's horrible. You can't be losing your swamp puppies, man. They're adorable.
But he
They're
lost
all
this
cut
in
up,
Georgia. I want to
always
know
smiling at you.
the story doesn't talk about where he lost it. It just says he lost it in Brunswick, Georgia, and he believes he was stolen. And he's offered an award for the alligator. But here's my question: one, alligator, in according to the pictures, it's pretty big. Let's say it looks like it's about 5 to 6 feet long. What? How did
Yeah.
you lose your alligator?
I bet he lost it at like the Pottery Barn or something like that. You go into a Pottery Barn, I swear, man, they got all these knickknacks everywhere. People buying crazy statues. I bet somebody thought it was a statue down at the
Like,
Pottery Barn
hey,
and bought it for $5. Put a
this
sticker
is
on, took a
new.
sticker off something else, took somebody's swamp puppies. Yeah.
That would be hilarious to be in the store and be like, that alligator looks real. To get rid
Yeah,
of
man. Go down to your local potty barn. I guarantee you'll find a statue of like an alligator riding, like a gnome riding an alligator or something. They're there.
I mean, I hope the guy gets his emotional support alligator back, but this has got some great potential. And I only say this because based upon a string of movies that's come out in the past few years, I don't know if you remember that movie Cocaine Bear, and that movie has spawned like a lot of like meth gator and a bunch of other like I think there's one
Oh,
with
you could do a
squirrels.
movie like the Lost Toaster. Remember the Lost Toaster trying to get home with the vacuum and the blanket and whatnot?
That's what I'm thinking. They got so much
Yeah, you do
potential
like a
for
whole
Wally.
movie.
Make a series around Wally, or at least a documentary documenting this guy's life with his emotional support gator. I think that Discovery or one of these channels needs to jump on this and do a full TV treatment of this guy living with his emotional support gator because there's lots of potential
Along the
here.
way on the Swamp Puppies travels, they could meet a chinchilla. They call them Fluffy and Silly, and they could be running around the neighborhood. Yeah, I'd watch that. Yeah, why not?
So
Speaking of alligators, I got a story out of Florida too. For again, alligator. You know that there was an alligator that pretended to be a bunch of chalk blocks down on the Air Force Base down there.
what?
McDill Air Force Base. There was an alligator that pretended to be chalk blocks, and it was like holding up like a C-17 or C-130 for a couple hours. And all the Air Force kids didn't know what to do with the alligator. They ended up calling like the local sheriffs and to get rid of him and whatnot. And the first thing I thought is if this would have happened on a Marine Corps base, two things would have been happening at first. One, that alligator would have been very well fed because we would have started feeding it beef jerky and all the other things we would, and whiskey probably too. And then two, that alligator would have got a brand new pet down at the local barracks. It would have ended up at the barracks as somebody's, in somebody's wall locker. And that would have, and it would have never made the news because the NCOs never would have found out about it because the Lance Corporals would have found out about it first.
I remember a story when you talk about having animals in barracks and stuff. Years ago, I was in Camp Arab Shah, Kuwait, and there was this warrant officer that I was friends with, and we had talked about in Kuwait. There's these really large lizards, right? They're everywhere, especially in the summer when they start getting more active and moving around a bit. So I saw this big, really super fat lizard crawling underneath a T-wall, and I was like, "Hey, there's a big ass lizard there that's super fat." He goes, "Yeah, I know. I've been feeding it." So he'd been grabbing extra meat, hamburger patties, etc., just feeding this thing the whole year he was there, fattening it up. And so he told me about a prank he did where he caught it and he went into like the women's shower area and tossed it into the women's showers. I thought that was
That
pretty.
sounds like tradition. Yep.
I
Oh,
mean,
and pranks on the base. Yeah.
yeah, so I thought that was pretty hilarious. But But yeah, man, what's this with gator? Alligator stories in Florida is just never ending, right?
Yeah, man, they're adorable, they're fluffy, they're mischievous, they can climb fences and walls, so you can't ever stop them, and they end up in funny places. And for all the squeamish people, whenever you see one, they go, which is fun for everybody.
Well, I want to take a,
Like,
a, a pause in our podcast because one of the things that I told y'all what we're going to do is we're going to do what I call the shameful plug. So where we take a moment just to talk about something, whether it's a project, business, something that we're going to just self promote because why not? It's not like we got like millions of people watching this anyway. So we're really just
there's
talking to
probably
the
one dude sitting on the pooper in his underwear, and he's probably related to one of us.
probably. So with that, Yama, do you got something you want to plug?
Yeah, man. Well, just to wrap up my last thought, I wanted to say that Florida's on a next level Jumanji. It's just Jumanji in America. Um,
Yeah.
and as far as the shameless plug here, let's think about it.
What's that on your
So
door?
yeah, so on my door here, I got a can of spray paint and spray paint on my website, yavos.tech, because that's my name, Yavos. I even made a T-shirt and whatnot.
Can you
And
spell that out? Because people that are listening might not.
YAVOC.tech, yavos.tech.
All right.
And basically, what it is I'm sitting down at the Thanksgiving dinner table, and all the family members come over and stuff, and some of the younger high school age kind of kids, they're going like, you got your houses are paid off, you get your cars are paid off, you fly airplanes, you work in your backyard, you hang out by the pool. Like, what? How do I get to where you've gotten? I'm like, well, if you want to get to IT, you got to get certifications. So the certifications that most people start with, I put it on my site. I'm making a course and a video, and I wrote some textbooks here and stuff. I'll get to that in a second. I made textbooks to go get their CompTIA Security Plus. And to that end, the textbooks I wrote, this textbook here is basically every possible thing you're going to get tested on. They list out in a bullet point list. So I took everything that they could possibly test you on, and I give you at least a paragraph or two, explanation, analogy to try to make it as simple as possible. And then this textbook over here, whenever you're studying for one of these certifications, you generally follow 3 steps. Step 1, you got to read some kind of textbook. Step 2, you generally want to watch some kind of video course. And then step 3, you want to find as many practice questions as you possibly can. Get used to the way they answer the questions. And a lot of people, unfortunately, they go to some of those unethical sites to go and get those stuff, and then they get caught and found out doing that stuff, and it's unethical and they shouldn't be doing it. So what I did is I created, 1,000+ test questions on every single topic you could possibly ever get tested on. I put it into one book, and I slashed the price to it's literally half of whatever you pay on any of those shady sites. And it kicks ass. So read a book, watch a video course on YouTube or whatever, or watch some kind of video course. You can go to your site, actually topcyberpros.com. And then step 3, I got some test questions. You can go read them. There's an explanation for every single question you could possibly get asked on. So it's simple, it's to the point, it's a way less money you'll spend anywhere else. And that's my shameless plug. It's just trying to help people get my job. And I'm even creating a how to get started in IT video course that's just gonna, in a couple of videos, the same way that somebody would ask me, like a relative or something, how do I actually do this? What are my step-by-step, things I have to do? And I just lay it out. I give all the resources. And there's a bunch of free stuff on my site too. So even if you don't want to buy any of the crap, at least, hey, there's some free stuff. Go check it out, man.
Okay. So y'all, this is a moment where, we kind of looked at the top news stories, which is basically what Google News and the internet is filtering for us to know as the top news. But I want to do something somewhat random, but we wanted to kind of highlight news that's going on locally for some country or city. So let's do this. Give me a letter from the alphabet. What's your favorite letter from the alphabet?
Let's go Y. Why not?
Okay, give me 1 second. Let's see, Y, and let me do countries that start in Y. Give me 1 second. Start with Y. Oh, there's only one. Do you know what country that is?
Country that starts with Y. Yemen?
Yemen. Ding, 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 ding. You are absolutely
All
correct. So let's see what the top news stories are in Yemen right now. This should be interesting.
Yeah, we got that right. All right.
Missile attack by Yemen's Houthi rebels damages a ship in the Red Sea. That's pretty much a course for par. The second story is likely missile attack by the Houthi rebels damages a ship in the Red Sea. Third story, it's targeting a British ship. So, yeah, pretty much, well, it's attacking ships in the Red Sea.
The
So,
pirates?
they're not pirates, they're Houthi rebels. So, not to be
What's the
confused
difference?
with just Somalian pirates off the Horn of Africa. We're talking about the Houthi rebels.
All right.
So I actually saw a clip that on the internet about a guy speaking about movies, right, and how in film, Star Wars, a Divergent series, Hunger Games, we always got these rebels and resistance. Like in Star Wars, of course, the rebels, the Rebel Alliance, Luke, Han, Leia, and so forth. And they talked about how in film, like V for Vendetta, we always root for the protagonist, the rebel group, the resistance group, and we root for them and want them to overthrow the evil, bad regime or dictator, leader, or organization, right? And he talks about how, but in reality, in our real life, we don't do that. We don't support that, right? And the
Yeah, it
parallel
kind of
that he
sounds
was,
like dudes firing rockets at the mailman, to be totally honest.
not that I'm advocating that, to be clear, because this is a real, very controversial statement I'm about to make, but it's not invalid.
Oh, you're make all the skittle-haired people angry.
I'm about to get canceled, I guess. But the statement I'm going to make, based upon that analogy, that perspective he's given, how as people we love that in film, but in reality we don't. And here's where it's clearly seen in the universe of those films. Like let's take Star Wars, the Empire, which is controlling the galaxy, from their perspective, the Rebel Alliance are terrorists. They're terrorists that take and they blow up things and cause destruction. In our real world, the
And the
terrorists
Jedi's believe in like witchcraft and whatnot because they got the Force and their magic voodoo powers.
they could be viewed technically as a religious fanatic. And so when you think about these parallels about how film and film series and
Sounds like people who like
franchises,
pray to moon rocks when you think about it.
these film franchises that have made billions of dollars that we go and pay lots of money to see. There's fans all around the world. People wear their shirts, they buy the merchandise, they're so about it. And then in our reality, we have rebels and resistances that are like deemed terrorist organizations. So it's a very interesting perspective and thing to think about. So with that being said, since I've already kind of opened up the Pandora's box for cancellation here on the very first episode of our podcast, what are your thoughts, Yavo?
Well, I think anybody who's shooting rockets or anything else at people who can't shoot back or ain't shooting back, yeah, don't be doing that. And if you fuck around, you're gonna find out. So if you're firing rockets at the mailman or anybody else, and then you're surprised when the SWAT team comes out and kicks in your door and puts their boot in your teeth, don't be too surprised.
And I
Yeah,
agree. Like if you're attacking innocent people, especially women, children, and unarmed people, and what I would consider soft targets, obviously you're evil, vile. You should go straight to hell, one way ticket, right? But what about the groups that are actually targeting other militaries, other government structures? Because I would consider government structures to be kind of that gray area, because you could have
like
civilians working in government structures, but still those are
uh,
the bastions of government representing the government you're trying to overthrow. And again, I'm not trying to advocate overthrowing of the government. I'm just the
yeah, you're really
discussion
walking
of
on eggshells. Do what
it
I'm
is
doing. Just
walking on
start
eggshells,
drinking.
but I
Make it.
think it's
It'll make
something
it
that
better.
people should think about is that when you have groups, because remember, the United States of America, which is my country, I love my country. The United States of America, a group of rebels and resistance overthrew the British Empire to to form our country. So we were a country founded on a resistance. So
Speaking of
um,
founding and pirates and whatnot, you know that the Navy's founding document, like the document that founded the United States Navies, specifically states that the U.S. Navy was created to hunt pirates, right? That's like the reason that they did it.
I mean, yeah, pirates was
Yeah.
a big deal back in the day.
Don't
So
be playing. Don't touch our boats, man. You touch that. You touch some American boats, and then we created bigger boats to go mess up your day. And apparently that's going to continue until forever. So you mess with the boats, that you're going to have a bad day.
you touch us, we're touching you back, but you're not gonna like it. So,
I mean, yeah, if you walk around with a stick and start swinging around on the playground, eventually somebody's going to take that stick from you and whack you upside the face. That's what it sounds like. And America has been really good at whacking people swinging sticks right across the face for a really long time, and we're going to keep doing it. We're good at it. Take the sticks away
Franklin
from
D.
people who shouldn't be taking, swinging their sticks. Smack them in the face.
I think it was, no, it was Teddy Roosevelt that was speak softly and carry a big stick, right?
Yeah, man, that's it. It helps if your stick is bigger.
I thought it's not the size of the stick, but how you use it is.
I think you're thinking about it's not the size of the not the size of the dog. It's not the size of the
Size of the
dog in the
dog
fight. It's
in the fight in
size
the
of
dog.
the fight in the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So speaking
and
of
I'm pretty sure that
patriotism,
was that quote was originally attributed to an Army general who very much knew of Dan Daly. Obviously one of the most famous Marines, and coincidentally, Veterans Day is on Dan Daly's birthday.
oh, well, I thought that was Michael Vick that said that quote about the fight in the.
Yeah, it's originally attributed to one guy, but it's actually comes from a little earlier from an Army general. Yeah.
So you probably didn't get the
Whose name
reference,
escapes
but
me because I'm sitting in a hot ass porta potty, talking to
oh,
you
well,
in the
this
middle of
sombrero is
Florida
pretty
Keith
hot.
drinking whiskey.
So Michael Vick, so for those that don't know, Michael Vick was a famous NFL quarterback, I believe, for the Atlanta Falcons, and he was prosecuted for running a dog fighting ring. So that's why the joke was funny just to me since I knew the context of it. So, all right, let's talk about some patriotism or lack thereof. Here's another story. This is kind of getting into the cyber IT world, the world that we work in, if you're familiar with. Former NSA worker gets nearly 22 years in prison for selling secrets to undercover FBI agent. So let
That's
me
some
read.
dumbassery.
It is very
That's just
dumbassery,
plain stupid.
but let me read you some more. The district judge said that he could have put the guy's name is Jera Sebastian Daiki. I can't pronounce that
Dumbass
last
number
name.
8.
But he's
Yeah.
32 years old. He could have put him behind bars for longer. So he's 32 now. So in 22 years, he will be 54 years old. Uh, the sentence, he called it mercy for what he saw as a calculated action to take the job of the NSA in order to be able to sell national security secrets. And so he went further to say, quote, this was blatant, it was brazen, and in my mind, it was deliberate, it was a betrayal, and it was as close to treasonous as you can get. But
Now you got to remember when you're selling files, you're selling data like that. What you're really doing is, you're selling information that the enemy can use, right? So if I'm bad guy A and I want to know the target positions, if I want to know where the guys are so I can go shoot them in the face, bomb them, whatever, and you're going to try to go buy that information from some insider threat guy, so some inside agent on the American side. The guy who sold that information, he's literally selling the lives of his buddies for a couple of bucks. And if you sell your buddies out for a quick buck, take them out back and shoot them. That's it don't get much lower for betrayers and all that kind of nonsense. Don't be selling out your buddies because that's what you're
I
doing.
agree.
And even in that Disney movie where with the Pirates of the Caribbean, they say, hey, betrayers and backstabbers get the lowest circle. There you go. That's your reward. Don't be blue falconing people. Don't be screwing over your buddy. Don't be trying to get your buddies killed. And if you do, don't be looking for sympathy from nobody because you a piece of trash.
So the federally appointed public defender who was representing this gentleman, he had argued for a lighter sentence because he claims his client had suffered traumatic brain injury attempted suicide 4 times, and had experienced trauma as a child, including witnessing domestic violence and substance abuse. So
Why the hell was the guy working on the job with access to that information?
that brings me to
If he
that. How
wasn't
does
right,
this
if
guy
he got
have a top
smashed in
secret
the head.
clearance? How does this
Yeah,
guy have a
what?
clearance in the first place? But he argued that he suffered from PTSD, bipolar disorder, and OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. He denied being motivated by ideology or earning money. He was in debt.
Bullshit.
What was that?
Oh, I said bullshit. If he was selling something to make a buck,
So they
definitely the money was
provided.
back to him. You say otherwise, like I've seen Judge Judy where somebody's wrong and they like, nah, Judge Judy, that wasn't the story. And Judge Judy's like, nah, you're full of shit.
Oh, it's full of shit because they produced no hospital records and no expert medical experts to support that statement. But
Yeah, I
they
think if
did.
anybody watched Judge Judy for even one episode knows that's a load of trash right there.
So they did have him on record of claiming that he was in debt, and the amount of debt here is staggering: $237,000 in debt. Again, how did he get a
Yeah, there's your
clearance?
reason.
So he was trying to sell information. He was initially paid 16,000, and then he was asking for 85,000, which was his salary at the agency for a year. But
Yeah,
yeah, the
no.
FBI had an agent posing as a Russian, so he was trying to sell secrets to the Russians. And yeah, he got arrested when he showed up for the meet to
Yeah, you
exchange.
know, George Washington used to hang people for that stuff, right?
So yeah, there you go. We have another case from the NSA, and of course, folks remember there was a Reality Winner. What a great name! That was another NSA employee contractor that got nabbed up for doing acts against the government. And of course, the poster child
Yeah,
for
no,
the
that's
NSA is
that
Ed
amazes
Snowden.
me, and that, that genuinely like blows me away that somebody would ever think that'd be a good idea. Like before I joined the Marine Corps, my ass lived, you know, literally in a tent for a while, right? Like I was bum broke, delivering pizzas to kind of pay for food and whatnot, but I was bum broke. The point is, even being bum broke, I would rather file bankruptcy and just be like, yeah, Title VII bankruptcy. Let me wash away my debt, and I'll go explain that to the clear, the FSO, the physical security officer, be like, hey, you know, I'd rather just be broke uh, than I would be, actually screwing over my buddies. Because that dude
Yeah.
literally chose selling out his friends over being broke and just, using off of one of those after bankruptcy credit cards, where you put like a small limit on the card and you just kind of keep reloading that card, which is an inconvenience at most. So
Mm-hmm.
this dude chose getting his friends killed over an inconvenience.
But remember,
So
it
yeah,
said he was
screw that guy.
237,000 in debt. So that already
That's what
showed
bankruptcy is for.
he was not good with money. He was horrible with money. There
Well,
was a
clearly,
pattern
yeah.
that was long established before this happened. So it just goes back to people don't always report what they see or what they figure is. If you see it, say it, report it. If the investigation finds nothing, great. If they find something, they can stop this guy before it becomes a real issue where he did meet a real spy and did potentially sell secrets to a real spy. Luckily, the FBI got in on this, stopped them. Great. But again, crazy story there about the NSA and now an ex-employee. So,
Yeah, obviously, screw that guy.
so real quick, since we're talking technology, the hot topic is every day we got another AI system coming out. So I just wanted to get Yavo. This is something that
Oh,
you and I both work in this world of IT cyber, but what are your thoughts on AI, man? Is it going to be like the Terminator franchise has warned us about for 3 decades, or is it going to be just butterflies and fields of lilac?
man, as somebody who's like worked with the AI, like I'll tell you what, the AI is it is definitely going to be replacing jobs. It is a tool. If you think of it like a tool, then you're going to get better working with it, and it's going to make you better because it's like going from a regular hammer to going to something crazy automatic, right? Like well, a hammer's a bad example. Maybe something like a screwdriver versus a drill. So if AI is like having a drill, it's like, oh, it's going to take away, or the advances between between a horse and a car. If you learn how to use the tool, then you're going to be better, right? Is it going to automate and remove jobs? Sure. Is it going to create a bunch of jobs? Nah, probably not. But will people always need people are always going to come with problems. So when it comes to AI, people get worried that this AI is going to be able to solve and do everything for people. And I tell people that if you ever had a teenager at home, you know that teenagers are always really good at coming up with new problems to complain about. And the great thing about a capitalist society is that if you can complain about a problem, then I can find you a solution. And so if I'm always as long as there's people to keep finding solutions to people's complaints, we're going to come up with new jobs to fill those problems, to answer those concerns. I don't think AI is going to, be an apocalypse. I think it's going from a horse to a car, or a screwdriver to a drill. Nothing came before AI. That is definitely true. And AI is going to be creating fewer jobs than it initially creates. There's going to be a growing pains. But I think as people learn to work with it, when you watch Star Wars or Star Trek or any of those kinds of shows, you see that the smart guy in Star Trek or whatever, he's going to go to the computer library. He's going to talk to a hologram, and then they're going to pull up the systems, pull up his requests and stuff like that. But what you never really seem to forget about in the movie is that there's always like a human element that works in that library that socially talks to the person and kind of like gets them to where they really need to go because they're the expert with that library AI system in those sci-fi movies and whatnot. So you might be able to get rid of the mundane tasks, or you might be able to get rid of the repetitive tasks with AI, but you're definitely not going to get rid of the, working with the human factor, because no matter how good they make ChatGPT or any of these automated tools with the phone services, or if you go through a drive-through at Wendy's and you're talking to a computer, any of those things, you're never really going to get rid of the people that socially have to work with the people so that more people can work with it. So jobs will turn into more like social jobs, or they'll be filling new problems that people come up with. And I'm 100% confident that we are never going to run out of complaints and things to complain about. And so people are going to find ways to address and answer those problems. So you can always still find a job.
Yeah, I agree for the most part. I think that, yes, a lot of jobs, especially in illustration, graphic design, marketing, sales even, because they could train these things to deliver a script, to talk and have a conversation over a telephone. I saw a clip the other day where it was Will Smith and Chris Rock sitting at a table together as if they were conducting an interview or having a conversation. It was completely deep faked, AI driven. It was like almost near perfect on their voices. Obviously the video wasn't 100% there, but it makes you think, if this is where we are today, imagine a year from today, imagine 5 years from today, and think about 10 years from today, where we're like, wow, look at all the things it's doing now. And I would say this is the way I term today. This is the nice and shiny phase. Like, oh, it's nice and shiny. Look at the features, these capabilities, and look at the nice and shiny toy we have. Now imagine when it becomes, organizationally utilized for organizations, like you said, to replace jobs, or not, maybe not replace a whole job, but maybe drop, like if you're a graphic designer, they still need one of you, but they don't need a team of 20, or the one person
What's
that you
that
have,
expression?
they're gonna replace.
Don't believe everything you hear and only half what you read.
Of course, but as I was saying in my example, let's say it replaces 50% of your job, right? So let's take like a graphic designer, and they take half of his task away. They might decide, well, we don't need you full time anymore. We're going to move you to part time. Or they'll say, look, instead of paying you 100,000 a year, we're going to now drop your salary to 50,000. So we may see a shift in salaries dropping down, reduction in number of people in certain fields. I believe that's going to happen, and people are going to have to adjust and adapt to that new reality as it starts to develop and hit. But I'm trying to think in terms of where it will be 10 years from now. Today, It's able to deep fake voices. It's able to do a lot of manipulation and be used for a lot of, potentially negative purposes. Where that's going to be 5, 10 years from now. So I guess stay tuned on this one. This will probably be something we'll talk about in other podcasts as news around this comes up. But I don't think a day goes by where there's not a news story about another feature advancement in AI or a new AI that's come up that's doing something wonderful and great. So I'm on the boat of embracing, leveraging the technology to do things better, faster, or to be more creative. But I do see the huge potential for businesses because at the end of the day, a business cares about the bottom line. The bottom line is to make money. And if they can make money and save money by reducing staff, reducing their human payroll, and employ a machine that doesn't need to sleep, take smoke breaks, they're going to do it. That
Yeah,
doesn't need vacation time, they're going to do it. So
and AI just makes things faster and more convenient. It doesn't like, there's always going to be people to people are always going to come up with new complaints and things like that.
and I don't disagree, but I do think that give it another 1, 5, 10 years, we're going to see some drastic changes. And of course, it's still advancing and developing. So we still will have a question mark about where it's going to go. And I think we could talk, for an hour plus just on AI, but just to kind of,
Yeah, it kind of sounds like you're talking about like a chef, gets really high pay, they make super awesome good food, and how conveyor belts and whatnot, and assembly lines and SOPs to make things simpler processes, McDonald's and other fast food chains and stuff, through simplifying SOPs and simplifying individual tasks, now they can get you a cheeseburger for what was $1 and now seems like a little bit more. But the point is, now you can go get, some food on any street corner and whatnot, and it's a lot cheaper. And
yeah.
and yeah, you don't have to pay a guy who knows a bunch of complex tasks. So you kind of put the complex guy task out of you put that chef out of the mainstream, and now he only works at the fancy restaurant. Maybe that means going forward for AI, people will start paying more money for content or for things that they know that's 100% made for by a person, and they can guarantee that it's not made for by AI.
You just
Just like,
maybe,
people
you
pay
just
more money for
maybe,
fancier food at like a restaurant.
you maybe just, we may need to like lock down that logo, that branding, that accreditation, where you just came up with some. Remember, there was a big push back in like the '80s, made in the USA, and
Counterrobot.com.
where people were buying products that was labeled made in the USA or handmade, locally sourced. All these things where people care about where their products and services are coming from, that it's helping local businesses, small businesses. I think that might be a new term. Human made, human
Yeah,
created,
human made,
human
man.
developed. You might be
Yeah.
onto something, Yavo. You may want to jump on all those domain names there.
Nah, you got it.
So we would not be doing the world any justice for this podcast if we didn't talk about perhaps the most important topic in the news, if not this month, maybe the whole year. And that's Taylor Swift's new album that she's dropped, talking about several ex-boyfriends and her current boyfriend.
Was this before or after she won the Super Bowl?
This is after. Oh, well, actually, I think she announced the record at some awards ceremony. Which, I mean, what a great capitalizing on a moment, right? She won an award, I think, and then she just announced that she was dropping an album. And
Oh
what
yeah,
great
and she like showed up like it's like her 16th award. It's like she showed up and looks like, all right, appreciate it, guys. Like she's like, I got like a bunch of these at home, and then just kind of like bounced.
Nope. She just basically, from what I understood, she took the stage, accepted the award, and said, "Oh, by the way, I'm dropping the album." So what a great way to plan for that, right? But here's the thing that I want to make a comment on Taylor Swift, and if the Swifties that potentially listen to this want to come at me, bro or sis.
Oh, they're gonna.
But here's my statement. I think it's about time people get tired of albums about exes, right? She's done a lot of them, made hundreds of millions of dollars, and hey, good for her. But why don't you grow as an artist? Grow and develop music, do a different genre. Don't just make just poppy, catchy, sing along lyrics. Why don't you write things that are very introspective? Or why don't you? I think Folklore was an
Because it
album
makes
she
money.
true. But she did that one album, I think during COVID, she released an album called Folklore, which was, kind of introspective, right? And I think it got a lot of praise in the media. But when you see like people talking about some of the lyrics on this latest album, it's like you're 30 something years old. You're not 16, 15 anymore. And I know That's part of that image that she curates with her and her marketing team is to be that forever 15-year-old. But you're 30 something years old, woman. Write songs for 30-something-year-old women. Write music that's a little bit older and mature and grow with your audience. Don't just keep writing to a younger demographic. That's just my 2 cents. I don't know what your
I
thoughts
think the
are,
only
Taylor Swift.
opinion I have on Taylor Swift, if I have any at all, was she, her fourth grade teacher failed her. She needs to learn how to hold a pen.
Hold a
You,
pen.
have you seen a picture? Like I saw a meme the other day. It was like, have you seen how Taylor Swift holds a pen? She like
Like,
holds it with her knuckles
is
all
she
weird and
holding like a
whatnot.
normal person?
Yeah, it's all crazy. I was like, I didn't know this was a thing, but the
Wait,
second I saw it, I can't unsee it. I'm like, all right, well,
show
instead
me
of
how
how
she
it's
holds a
plaguing
pen.
my mind, it's gonna plague yours.
Show me how she holds a pen.
So like all kinds of like lobster hand or whatever. It was crazy.
Like, can you demonstrate it?
I just did like this, like all kinds of like weird.
I mean, that's still
Yeah,
holding a pen. I mean, I don't know what's weird
I,
about that. I mean,
man, if you jump on Google and you put in Taylor Swift holding a pen, you're gonna see a bunch of crazy images. I'm telling you, it
and these
don't
are
look
not
right. It looks like
Photoshop.
her fourth grade teacher, was like played a mean joke on her when they told her how to hold a pen, or
So these are
whenever you
not.
were
These
that
are
old.
legit photos. These are not Photoshop.
No, it's like a real thing.
Okay, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, do it. Break out the Google and I'll superimpose it on the screen, or
All
people
right, hold
watching
on.
this can
I'm not
take
gonna
a
post it
second,
on
go
the
freaking Google
screen.
it. I'm telling you, like it's wrong. I don't know. I don't know why it bothered me. I didn't think I would give a shit, but then the second I saw it, I was like, well, now I've seen it, and for some reason, it's like
So just so people know, I'm never going to superimpose text or images on these videos because the primary purpose of the podcast is to have the conversation. But I'm looking right now. Yeah,
yeah, man,
she kind of holds it between these two fingers. So instead of holding it like this, like the
like
pin
a
being
normal
here,
person.
she holds it between these two fingers. So
Yeah, I don't know why it bothers me, but it does. Second I
well,
saw it, I was like, that ain't right.
that I mean, it's different. I don't think it's like grotesque, but yeah. Did you ever think you'd be talking about Taylor Swift on a video that's going to be on the internet, Yava?
No, but I will say that okay. So this just popped in my head. I got one more ridiculous random bit of information that's completely useless, but I learned about it, so now you have to too. And here's what it is. If you in your mind, if you scream in your head, or if you whisper in your head, it's the same volume.
Yep,
And right now, people listening to this are screaming in their
they're
head.
screaming in their heads. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Uh,
once you know that, you can't unlearn that. It's there forever now.
so yeah. So Yava, do you have any other news stories that you want to talk about?
Let's see. Um, Honestly, I think the last one I got was so a part of the infrastructure bill they passed a little while back. They put it was like $1.2 trillion. 14.2 billion of that crazy expensive bill uh, was to give out free internet to folks, and it expires today.
Wait,
So
free internet.
yeah. So they were giving away internet, same as like food stamps and the government and whatnot. They were giving away, like a stipend for to, basically give people free internet. And if you were, I think like X percentage, it was like 200% below the poverty line. If you're 200% below the poverty line, here's some free internet for you. And the first thing I thought is like, well, if I'm 200% below the poverty line, internet's probably not my first concern. Um, and if it was my first concern, all right, that's a strange set of priorities. But I mean, I guess everyone's got to get their YouTube. How'd they get the phone if that's their first priority? I would have think like food and water would have been my first priority. But okay,
I mean,
uh,
when we talk about budgeting, the government doing these crazy budgets and green
yeah.
lighting
And
projects.
that ran out today. So as you're watching this podcast, go ahead and thank your local politician for spending $14.2 billion to give people free internet. Apparently, with priorities that they're like, what?
I would like to know of that 14 billion, how many people actually signed up? Like, what was the target number that they estimated for that 14
Man, that's a
billion?
good number to Google. I didn't Google that, but I need to.
So the interesting thing is, how many people did they think they could give free internet to for that money? So what's that number, right? That's the big number that justified the amount.
It was like $72 per household that they were giving it to.
Okay, so you do the math, 72 divided into 14 billion, but then of that number,
Yeah,
the
you can
maximum number of
extrapolate that.
people, how many people actually signed up? But I'll guarantee you one thing: the
Because
the,
the
the internet
government spent the money.
providers,
They
the
didn't
internet
save the money.
providers
Government's
that was
amazing at
lobbying for
spending money.
that to be in the bill got all of that money. Whether or not people signed up for the free internet, some telecoms got all that money, and that's just a shame of our government spending. You hear every year about these frivolous research projects. I forget the exact way it was worded, but there was like I think $100 something thousand given for
Our
scientists to
government's
research
spending money.
the gender identification of some kind of animal while it was under the inebriated or something. It was a ridiculous experiment
I don't know.
that shouldn't have
I
never
don't even know.
existed.
That's funny.
But I'm telling you, Yavo, once I figure out how to get government grants and government funding to do research, I mean, I want to do a research project about how long can I talk on a podcast with a guy sitting in Florida in a porta john, and we see if
How
we
many
can get
people
some
can you get to watch a podcast where you bedazzle that sombrero? That's what I want to know.
bedazzled and sombrero.
That's what you got to do. You got to just how many bedazzled beads can you fit onto one sombrero?
So this brings us to, we're going to be wrapping up here soon, Yavo, but this brings us to our second shameful plug. It's not a shameless plug, it is the shameful plug. And Yavo, do you have something else you want to shamelessly plug, or should I take it away?
Uh, I mean, honestly, I'm going to be finishing up that course to help people get started in IT. I mean, it's called the career course on how to get started. Clearly, I've been drinking some of this, but I won't be drinking on that course. It'll be like it'll actually kick ass. So that's all I got, man. You shoot.
I'll take this one over. So one of my businesses is called J West Holdings, and with J West Holdings, we deal with intellectual property. And as a creative, I just kind of create things, create products and intellectual properties. My newest thing is I have bought about 40 domains, internet domains, that I will be setting up these mock websites so that I will, in each episode, I'll talk about one of these websites, what the concept is. You can check out the website. And all these websites I'm going to talk about during that shameful plug is going to be for sale. Whether you want to buy it, and I'll give you just a few examples. One is called justgiveuponyourdreams.com. So another one's called machetegirls.com. There's all these kind of wacky type of websites, which are concepts that I've created to wrap around the site and to give you the idea. Because what I found out lately in the past couple of years of my life, I always thought that most people had a minimal to greater amount of imagination. I always believed that. I believed everybody was capable of having some imagination. But in the past 2 years, as I've come across more and more people, I'm finding out there's not a lot of people that got like 1% imagination. There's a lot of people out there that just go through life. They don't have no internal monologue, no dreams, nothing. They just show up to work, eat, sleep, live their life, but they have no imagination.
They become politicians eventually. Yeah.
Yeah, and it blew my mind. And I'm like, well, I'm full of ideas. I just don't have the time and energy to put into every idea I have. So I said, you know what? I'm going to create J West Holdings just to create all sorts of intellectual property so that people can buy ownership of that and take that idea and run it. You want to make an independent horror slasher film called Machete Girls and have all kinds of merchandise? Then buy machetegirls.com. And these websites, not only on it's just the website you're getting all of the socials that I've wrapped around the website, and the idea and concept is yours for whatever price that I sell it for. So that's my shameful plug for this podcast episode. At this point, Yavo, do you have any other news stories to talk about, jokes to share?
Nah, man. But next time you got to remind me to get some pretzels out here. I need some snacks to go with
I
this.
need some snacks. Well,
Yeah,
Yavo,
man. I
happy
need some
birthday,
pretzels.
man. This has been our first podcast episode recording. We've been recording now for about an hour and 22 minutes, roughly.
I'm
I
sure we
think
pissed off the Skittle hair people at some point because somebody with thin skin is throwing a hissy fit. about
And that's
something.
fine. I mean, we're not here to be people pleasers. We're just here to have conversations, talk about our opinions and thoughts on different news stories and topics, and that's what we're here to do.
Think
I
about
mean,
that for a second. They went on the internet and found some guy sitting in the backyard of Florida, sitting in a porta shitter to throw a hissy fit about. Man, like that
before we
just seems like
go,
if you've gotten pissed off about anything about some shit said in the back of a porta john in the back of Florida,
been
you've
said,
had your limit of internet for the day.
and it's
Turn the
called the
internet off.
Pottycast because that's two guys just talking shit. But before I
Yeah,
let you
man.
go, Yavo, can you get your camera and give us a quick tour of the porta potty? I know that's
Yeah.
impromptu, but if you could possibly do that.
So let me see if I can flip around the camera or whatnot. You know what? I'm not even gonna bother doing that. Here's the porta shitter, right? There's the super fancy bleach. I spent about 3 or 4 days, well, 3 days, scrubbing it using a sander. I used a torch for a little while. Jim, you need to send me a better torch. And as you can see, you know, it got some. It's very romantic because I got
Yes.
candles to keep away the mosquitoes. I filled the thing with bleach, and then I got a drink to keep me hydrated because man, it gets a couple 100 degrees inside a porta john,
Can
and
you
I'm sure
step
a
in the
couple of
porta
my.
john? Let's give people a point of view of the inside, the interior.
Oh yeah, all right.
Can we shut the door?
Hell no, it's hot, man. Hell no. But yeah, I stuck your logo.
Oh yeah, so there's our logo, Pottycast, the JK Pottycast. So for folks that want to know what
I've
JK
always made
is,
that.
it's not just for just kidding. It's actually Jim and Kai. So Yavo's first name is Kai, Jim and Kai Pottycast. Well, Yavo, I have nothing else to talk about, so we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you for anyone that was listening to
There's
this or watching this video. We're gonna keep doing these as long as they're fun and Yavo doesn't die.
I'm gonna if I pass out and you need a life alert my ass at some point. We need to get this because when we do this during the summer, like it's gonna be hot as balls.
I want to see you sweat.
I'm gonna be sitting here in green on green because it's gonna be too hot to wear pants.
Well, anyhow, that's been the podcast, the JK Podcast. Follow us on our socials. You know, stay tuned for our next episode. And anything we talked about, I said I was going to put a link in the description. I'm sure someone's going to remind me, and it'll be in the description. But other than that, check out JK Podcast online, and that's been us talking shit.
Go check out Yavos.tech, and I'm gonna go jump in the pool. Peace.